Hello everyone, good afternoon, welcome to another WEBINAREAL session webinar on Vamos Recuperar. This time we're focusing again on children, primary school children, primeiro ciclo, and our session today is about play and learn. So thank you so much for coming. I can see that you're already making comments. Someone was hoping that kids would be able to take away what they need in order to continue learning while they're playing. So Miguel, I agree with you. Let's hope we can make this happen, okay? So throughout the session, I will be talking to you. So please feel free to make any questions that you want to ask in the chat box. Leave your comments, okay? And enjoy yourselves, okay? Here we go. So, what do we have in our box today? So, first of all, we're going to look at how should we play, or shouldn't we play? Should I stay or should I go? All right, and why is play interesting, okay? And finally, we're looking at a couple of activities, well, more than just a couple of activities about play, okay? So, first task for you. Yes, you thought you were going to relax, didn't you? No. Okay, so first task for you. First questions. Do students play in your lessons? Can you please just type away in the chat box? Let me see if you usually play with your kids in class or not. There's a slight delay between there and here, so I need to wait a little bit just to check that you're listening to me. For the time being, I still have everybody saying hello, good afternoon, and so on. Well, while I'm waiting for you to arrive, always thank you. Vanya, hello, how are you? Okay, so how important do you think play is for learning English? I think that quite a few people think that play is important for children in general, but when we have to bring it to a scenario of ELT, of English language teaching, then things don't really work the same way. Okay, so I've got quite a few comments. Yes, they love games. This is Annabella Almeida telling us. Of course they play, right? Yes, I do. Maria do Céu also plays. Okay, so, and how important do you think that it is for kids to play when they're learning a second language? Plickers, that's really good. Very important with capital letters. Yes, Regina, I really do agree with you as well. Very, very important. Right, funny enough, a common argument that I hear is that, well, I would love to play with my kids, I would love to play with my students, but I've got a syllabus to hold. But I've got a textbook to teach. But I've got this, but I've got that. And I don't know if you feel the same, but every time I feel I'm starting to get into a unit or an activity or a topic, it seems like I'm interrupted by something. It's either Halloween, then it's Christmas, then it's Carnival, then it's Easter, then it's this, then it's that. So it seems like there's always something coming in. So time management is probably one of our worst enemies when it comes to incorporating play. So it really does need to be well considered, well planned, but maybe not that much, right? Okay, in my opinion, the best way for them to achieve the goals we have in mind, yes, Rodolfo, and turmas mistas, oh yes. Yes, we have to teach the curriculum or the syllabus as well, but yeah, we can still manage this. So I know that I am, from what I could see in the chat box, I'm preaching to the converted. So you don't really argue the fact that play is necessary, that play is important. But just in case you have to justify why you should be sitting on the floor in your classroom playing with your 8 or 9 or 10-year-olds, or even older than that. Let me just refer you to a study by UNICEF. UNICEF did this study in collaboration with Lego. You've got the link here, the reference, just in case you want to go over and read it, okay? And what they say in this article is basically what is common sense, okay? So playing is socially interactive, yes, right? It's going to help children wait their turn, learn about how to behave, learn how to lose, which is very important as well. So it's beyond just language teaching, right? It's a set of skills that we're working with our children. It is meaningful. It is through play that children perceive and understand and make sense of the world around them, right? That's why we play dolls. That's why we play doctors. That's why we play firemen and police officer and cowboys and all of that, right? That's why we pretend to have a dinner party with all the teacup set and all those things prepared, because we're learning rules of society. In a way, if you think about it, this is how children know how far they can go, what is acceptable, what is not acceptable. It's not the only way, of course. I can hear some people say, where are the parents? Where are the parents? Yes, of course, we know that, right? But it is through play that children do manage to get some sense of the world around them. Then, play is joyful. Joyful takes us to what? It takes us to motivation. It takes us to thrill. It takes us to pleasure. Have you noticed that we mentioned that kids, oh, they don't pay attention. Oh, but if you give them a video game, they'll be focused and concentrated for hours on end, right? This is something that we say a lot, and it is true. The kind of skill, the kind of activity that is required, or focus or energy that is required from any of us to be doing activities that are playful is quite different than something that is boring. Then it's actively engaging. Children are engaged physically, mentally, verbally, emotionally. When they're playing, that's their whole thing, right? They give themselves to the game. They give themselves to the activity. This leads to better learning. And finally, it's iterative. Now, I've been saying this for years, and I know that all of you or most of you will agree with me. When we teach, we cannot assume that everything that we've taught before has been learned. So we do need to revise. We take 2 steps forward and we take 1 step back. 2 steps forward and another one back, right? So we're moving like a tornado. What play and games help children do is, if you don't succeed, if at first you don't succeed, try again, right? And they will. And it's funny how they will not be so motivated to try with a worksheet, but they won't have a problem working or learning again with a game, right? Okay, so enough chit chat. Let's talk about games. Let's play. All right. So I've got a few games today, and we've said that we've played, and I'm sure that you do lots of different games in your lessons, and I would love to know about your favorite game. My first suggestion is about for when kids come to the class. Okay. So when we're starting our lesson, you know, those minutes between coming from break and you're still trying to get control of the class and so on. So what is something that we can do? This game is called the alphabet. And it surprises me, it amazes me how many teenagers don't know their alphabets properly, okay? I'm sure I'm not the only one who thinks this way. So they don't really know the alphabet. They know A, B, C, D, E, and sometimes the E, right? So this game is very, very simple. You get children lined up outside your door in the corridor, okay? or as they come in. You'll see the trick in a minute. And you say A out loud. And then the child that is right in front of you in line to come into the classroom will say B. If they say the correct letter in order, they can go in, right? The next one is going to say C. Great, in. The next one is going to say what? Let me see if you're paying attention. Exactly. So the next one is going to say D, right? And so on and so forth. So this is fast-paced, right? So you're not going to spend a lot of time doing this. It's a nice way to get children into the lesson, into the classroom. It's a nice way to start your lesson because you're starting with something that is fun, that is challenging. Yes, because it might be challenging, even because in order for me to know which is the letter that I need to shout out, I need to be quiet and listen to the letter the student in front of me mentioned, right? So this sort of coordination helps students calm down a little bit and get, switch to English mode. Now, there are several ways you can adapt this, all right? Let's imagine that you feel that your kids already know the alphabet pretty well. It's not a problem, okay? And so what you can do is instead of lining the students up along the corridor before they come in, you get them in pairs. 2 students, student A, student B, okay? And then what are you going to do? You're going to say apple. And the students, the one that raises their hands first, needs to tell you what's the first letter of that word. So a little bit of phonics practice here, okay? He got it right, fantastic. He didn't get it right, the other student has the chance to guess it, all right? Third variation, you can make it slightly harder. Again, 2 students. Same situation, apple. But this time, students are supposed to spell the word. So you're taking it a bit further. Pretty good if you're working with 4th grade, okay? Closer to the 3rd term, maybe, right? You've gotten them into the habit of spelling words or shouting out the first letter and so on, and then you can get them to do the spelling, okay? All right, and then you can create a whole system of points if you want to. If you don't want to, the motivation of getting it right at this age will still be sufficient for quite a few students. Maybe not all of them, but quite a few students, okay? Now, moving on. Another game for the it can either be a filler, it can be a warmer, a starter, or something that you do at the end of the lesson. And it's the very traditional I Spy, okay? So at my school, we've got a wall display that we transformed into an I Spy. But I know, because it happens to me as well, that we don't have the privilege of always teaching in the same classroom, right? So it's not possible for us to have a wall that is going to be transformed into a wall display of I Spy. So what do? I found this fantastic website, which is here, okay? And it's Paper Trail Design, and it's got lots and lots and lots of free printable templates, okay? And there's this post specifically, this article specifically, that is called 40 Plus I Spy Game Printable. And this is just an example. So I brought the one for Star Wars. And what this is a worksheet, and with all the images, and then you've got a list of images to find. So in this case, kids would have to find 5 yogas, they would have to find 4 the spaceships and the other things. Even though I like Star Wars, I have to be honest with you, I'm not really that big of a fan. Don't kill me, all right? But I know my kids are, and they're all about Mandalorian, and so I'm pretty sure they know all the names and they can teach me. Now, what do you do with this? So this sort of game is good to help concentration, memorization, and you can do it with a variety of topics. You can go to the website and get one of the free printable ones, or you can search online for topic related. So if you're teaching furniture, for example, you can go in and you can look for an I Spy puzzle that is related to furniture, so that you can help your students revise, or if you want to introduce the topic, it's just as well. Now, this can either be printed and a copy given to each student, one copy for every pair of students, or the way I do it, which is not the best way, but it's the way I do it. I don't print it. So I project it onto the board. Even if I don't have a board like this, if I have a regular whiteboard, I'm going to project it onto the board, okay? And then students will be able to, if they're working in small teams, I get them to work in small teams, and they're able to choose one, what do I call them? I forgot the name now. It's not a, it's the team leader, so to speak, okay? It's the team leader is going to come up to the board and he's going to draw a circle around the objects that they want, right? So, oh yes, we found R2D2. I think that's how, what's his name? That's his name, R2D2, right? And so on and so forth, okay? Again, what's the point of this sort of game? Basically, these games, they help you practice a set of skills that goes beyond language teaching, and they are absolutely essential for language learning. Memorization, right? Repetition, verbalization, spelling, okay? So all of these things that are extremely, extremely important as well. All right, moving on to our next game, and we're going into the realm of board games. I'm a fan of board games. I am old. I'm just like port wine, I think, right? And in my opinion, what we have is this. When we were growing up, we did not have video games, for sure, right? So what we worked with, what we played with, were things like Monopoly. We played with Party and Company sometimes. I remember when Trivial Pursuit was out, woohoo, it was amazing, right? So checkers and chess were something that were always at my school, and everybody knew how to play at least checkers. Maybe not chess, but checkers, everybody knew how to play. So for this activity, what are you going to need? You're going to need a board like that. If you have one that you don't mind taking to school, that's fine. I don't, or they're too heavy. So what do? Some years ago, I printed a couple of these. I laminated them, and believe it or not, swear to God it's true, this thing here is over 17 years old, okay? Still working. So I just printed I printed like 7, and that's what I use, okay? 7 of these. Then, what are you going to do? With little papers, could be like this, but it could also be a A4 page that is going to be divided and cut, okay? We're going to create little pieces of paper that can go more or less on the size of the squares, okay? So something like this, sort of, all right? And no, you don't have to do this yourself. You can ask students to do it, okay? They're 8, 9, they can pick up a pair of scissors and cut it themselves. Now, after that, what do I decide? I'm going to choose what my topic is going to be. So what do I want my children to practice, to revise, to study, whatever, okay? Let's imagine it's clothes, all right? Let's imagine it's clothes. So out of these, which I've asked my students to create 12 each, by the way, okay? So each student creates 12, right? On one side of the paper, I'm going to ask the student to write the English word. So remember, I'm working with clothes, right? Okay. So on the back, sorry, I'm going to disappear from the camera just for a second. I just needed a pen. Okay. So on the back, I'm going to write a word from the list of words that I've just given my students. Okay, just for you to know, I wrote the word scarf. Don't know why. I'm not particularly cold. I'm actually quite hot here. Okay, and I'm going to place all the words, all the little pieces of papers with the words in the right place as a normal game with checkers. Okay, now do you still remember how to play checkers? So we've got 12 pieces here, taking up the black spaces, right? And then my opponent has the same pieces, okay? Now you're wondering, haha, but in the real thing, we've got white pieces, black pieces. How are we going to do this? Very simple. If you don't have paper in different colors, you just ask the students to write their name on top, okay? So you got the word, the vocabulary that you want on one side. On the other side, you've got the student's name. If you have two students called Tomás, then don't put them together. Split them up. Make them work with other people. Okay, so Tomás and Beatriz are playing around, okay? And it gets to a point where Tomás has the chance of going over, right, Beatriz's little paper. So do you remember how that goes, right? In order for you to gain points, you would have to jump over your opponents, right? So what happens here is this. Once he's in place, he's going to get the word, get the counter. And he has to spell the word. S-C-A-R L. Tough luck. It's not the right spelling, okay? So he just can't jump over. But if he does get it right, if he says it's an F, scarf, right? Then he earns the counter, he earns the little paper, and he earns a point, okay? Yeah? Oh, but who's going to check that? Come on, we all teach children. They are better at policing themselves than Scotland Yard, okay? They will make sure their partner is not cheating, okay? So we don't have to worry about that. Okay, if you have any questions on how to play checkers like this, then I can just help you. So here's another explanation. It's the same that I was explaining. You will get the PowerPoint with all these instructions and all these links and a little bit of a bonus, okay? You will also get a template from one of these boards so that you don't have to go looking for one, even though you can, all right? Obviously you can. Okay, so let me just check if we have any questions so far. Exactly, we can use papers of different colors. Bottle caps might work too, Ana Maria Cerdeira Santos. That is a great idea that I had never thought about. Thank you so much, Ana Maria. And it's fantastic. Even if you want to include it with some sort of recycling activity, with some sort of environment friendly. Oh, that's just, love that idea. Really, really good. Thank you so much. Okay. Still talking about board games. There are board games that you buy, and they're not very cheap, right? And most of them are not for language use, second language acquisition use. So, but if you go, I'm just going to move past here really quick, okay? But if you go to one of these, this website here, one of these two, you're going to find board games that are ready to use, and they're free, okay? So this one, ISL Collective, you just need to register, and there's lots of fantastic, wonderful, amazing teachers who've decided to share their worksheets, so they're all there, and there's a whole section dedicated to board games. Here are a couple of the ones that I've been using for years. Okay, I've got this one on clothes, very simple, but it's ready. I just printed it in cardboard, not cardboard, it's paper, slightly thicker paper. I've got this one on food. And my favorite from the ones I brought here is this one on cardinal numbers. So any of these three came straight from this here, okay? From this website. Of course, you can, if you don't find any of this interesting, you can of course create your own. There are a number of templates online that you can download and use. This is an example of quite a sophisticated one, actually. So basically what you'll be doing is you already have the arrows. You're going to create the number of squares according to what you think you need, and so on, okay? If this is very confusing, which might be, but then again, you might have students who appreciate a bit more challenge, right? You can, of course, use something simpler. This is a template that I use a lot, and it comes from Board Games Template, this website here, okay? I believe this is template number 23. I'm not absolutely sure, but I believe it's template number 23. So what you do is you download this. It comes straight it's a Word document, so it's editable, okay? But if you want to let's be honest, things on a computer are great, but we don't always have time to edit them on a computer. And sometimes it takes longer for us to edit stuff on a computer than it does to just get a pen and write over, right? So what I do is I've got a couple of templates. If you watch the webinar we did last November actually on activities for the classroom, you saw that I have a folder with lots of templates, things that I have at hand and that I just take out and use whenever I need. And this is one of them. So I have it like this, blank on my folder. And when I want something right like that, right, I just go in, take a couple of photocopies, and immediately I get the template for a game. Now, for example, let's imagine that I wanted to create a game on numbers, colors, and days of the week, okay? All right, so how do I do this? Let's get this the image a little bit bigger. I think you can all see, right? So let me we can start with, so this is going to be start. Let me change the color here. Okay, finish. And then I'm going to have some, for example, some black holes in here, for example. Okay, so that means, and then I'll explain to the students, this means that if you fall on one of those, you have to go back to start. Yes, because you know the beauty about games? The beauty about games is that you don't rely solely on your knowledge to win. And that makes a huge, huge difference to those students who are trying, who are really trying, but they cannot compete with those top students in their class. Because the chance factor is always involved. So for them, it's not just about how much they've studied, but they feel that they have a chance. And why do I say this? Because sometimes some of our students study really, really hard and they just can't get there yet. They're for multiple reasons, right? Okay, so moving on. Now I'm going to have a few smiley faces. When they have smiley faces, they can move up 2 squares, for example. Now I'm going to mix here a little bit of snakes and ladders, for example. So if they come here, they have to go back to this one. But if they come here, they can come to this one, all right? So I still have quite a few squares in there. So what am I going to do now? Well, I'm going to start filling in with what I want. So remember what we were working with? Colors, numbers, and days of the week. So let's start. I'm going to put here a couple of numbers. What do I want students to do with the numbers? Well, there's the figures. They have to say 40, 13. If I want to make it more challenging, I'll ask them to spell the name, the word, okay? If I want colors, here I go. And okay, and then moving on to days of the week, I'm going to put here Monday. In this case, I want the students to spell the word, or I can say Tuesday +2, and it's going to make students think, okay, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the answer is Thursday. I can do the same with numbers, right? I can have like 3 + 5 and so on. So this is what one of these does not give me. The ability to include exactly what I want to include, exactly what my students need at that moment. Now, how long did it take us to do this? It took us about 4 minutes, right? And now it's ready. All I need to do is print it, photocopy it, and just like go. Okay? Yeah? All right. So let's move on. Okay. No. Yeah. Why is it that this always happens to us, right? Okay, now done. Okay. Kids love mystery. I love mystery. And I love the look on their faces when they're trying to see something. So this sort of game, for this one, you need a PowerPoint or you need a lot of Post-its. Okay, you can also do it with a lot of Post-its. I'll explain how you do it with Post-its in a bit, okay? So let's imagine that I'm going to introduce a topic which is animals, all right? I'm going to introduce animals. And I tell my students, I'm telling you, right? Behind this lovely wall of squares, there's a picture of an animal. Let's use some speculation here. Let's see if we can elicit some language from the students, okay? And let's see what they say. Can you try and guess? Come on, start writing in the chat box. Help me out here. What animal do you think is behind those squares? Come on, don't be shy. And I can give in a few tips. I can tell you that it's not big. Okay, it's not big. I can tell you it has fur. Okay, I've got an elephant, turtle, lion, dog, crocodile, giraffe. Somebody has already given the answer. Okay, I'm not going to say who, but someone's already given me the answer here. Okay, so now I'm going to challenge you. Can you choose a color? Choose a color so that I can click on one of the squares. Let me see. The first one to write the color, that's the color I'm going to move. Okay, I've got birds, dogs, mouse, cat. Okay, I'm waiting for the colors. You know there's a little bit of a delay here, right? So I need to wait for the info to reach me. Purple. Okay, so I've got purple. And there it was. Purple was Vanya. Vanya gave me purple. Filipa gave me red. Okay, so you've got a little bit of the picture there. All right. All right, everybody's going for purple. Now let's go for blue. Okay, I'll be generous. I'll give you this blue over here. Okay. More colors. Come on, give me more colors so that I can unblock. Red. All right, I'll give you red. Any ideas? Blue. Yes, but now you have to tell me which blue do you want. Do you want light blue or do you want dark blue? Do you want blue on line 2 or do you want blue on line 3? See where I'm going with this, what I'm doing to the students? Okay, somebody wants yellow. All right. So what do you think? Okay, somebody wants red now. You want the other red. Shall I give you the other red? I will. And here we go. And we've got a beautiful, not a beautiful rabbit. We've got a beautiful cat. Yes, we do. We've got a beautiful cat. Okay. Now, I just want you to, for a minute, imagine your classroom doing this. And people will tell me, it's going to be hell on earth. They're all going to be shouting and screaming and doing this and doing that. Of course they will. But I look at it in two different ways. Number one, if it's under control, it doesn't bother me because play is messy. Play is not quiet usually, unless you're playing solitary or something like that, right? So I don't see it as a problem. But if it really, really bothers you, and we all know we have those days when we can't hear a pin drop, that it will drive us nuts, okay? You can try setting up a few rules. You can, for example, divide the class in groups of 3, groups of 4, and only one person shouts out. And if the group starts making too much noise, right, that group cannot participate. Or you've got inside the group someone, an element, someone there, who is going to be responsible for controlling the noise, okay? Another bonus, you know, this is a template from, I think it's Games for English, something like that. I'm not really sure. But anyway, I'm also sending you the PowerPoint that you can use for that. So you just have to select an image and paste the image on the slide, and then it's going to be behind the little squares, and then you can use the activity and you can create as many PowerPoints as you want, okay? So it's nice to use if you don't want to work with the internet, but still you will need a computer. If not, you can obviously use an A4, okay, covered in Post-its, right? You cover it in Post-its. Maybe you don't have Post-its of different colors, but you can number the Post-its. And students will shout out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 100. And you just remove the Post-it that you're talking about. Okay? All right. Opa. Here we go. I've got another one, but not playing this one. And we're almost at the end now. Now, play is usually associated either with vocabulary, with speaking, but I don't really see children or teachers associating play to writing. And it is something that is necessary. We know that, right? It's fundamental. So many years ago, I used a magnet board from, I don't know if I can say the name, but you know that Swedish shop that's yellow, blue, starts with an I, finishes with an A. Okay, so I bought one of those magnet wall displays, right? And again, paper, my best friend, I cut a number of words, high frequency words, and I laminated them because I am a believer in laminating everything and anything because it will last a lot longer, and we know what materials will suffer in the hands of kids. So I laminated them. I glued a little magnet behind, okay? The magnets I found in Chinese shops or in the DIU shops, okay? And basically, I just did this. I would take the board, put it on the class. I would have the words there, and I would ask the students or invite the students whenever they finished an activity or whenever they felt they wanted to, right before the lesson, for example, they would come in and they would use those words to try and build poems. So I did this with teenagers. And then I started thinking, maybe I can use the same technique with kids. So of course they're not going to be doing poetry, or maybe they will, okay? But at least I can try and get them to do sentences. So what is this activity? I chose words that are in the units that I've covered so far in the book, okay? So I've got, this is for 3rd grade. So I have colors, I've got clothes, I've got has got, 3rd person singular and the plural. I've got like, I've got don't like, I've got days of the week, Monday, okay? I'm working as well on replacing nouns with pronouns, she, Mary, he, John, things like that, and so on. So in on a interactive whiteboard, what I usually do, if I do this using the software from the interactive whiteboard, I will be able to move these little words around, okay? But unfortunately, we still not all have access to an interactive display or a whiteboard, a smart board, okay? So let's do the simplest version here, okay? So this is what I have projected on my board or printed and given to the students, okay? And I'm going to give them a certain number of time And this can be 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, as much as you think is necessary. You can even give different students different times, okay? And what they're going to do is they're going to come up with as many sentences as they possibly can, okay? So you're my students now. Here are the words. Can you please give me sentences that you can form from these? And while you're coming to me, I'm going to... What is the... Maria do Céu Lourenço, Marcos Lourenço is asking, what is the solution for a mixed class of third and fourth graders? I don't know exactly which activity you're referring to, Maria do Céu, but I'm assuming that you're speaking in general, right? What do we do when we have to mix both things? Well, I think that something that works is different workstations. If you've worked with pre-primary schools, you've noticed that they have in their room, they've got the corners, right? And the corners have different activities. Some have the doll house, some have the drawing section, some have the library section, some have the materials that they can manipulate, right? And I think the same thing can be done with classes that have mixed abilities or third grades, fourth graders, right? So we can have stations with games that are more appropriate in terms of vocabulary for one class or from one type of students, and then allow students to move freely, okay? But setting rules like only 4 people can be in this little corner, or 3 people can be in this little corner, or Joãozinho, you've been in this corner, so you need to move on to the next corner, okay? Yeah, so I would suggest something like that, okay? All right, so I've got, he likes pink trousers. You do this with fast finishers, Vanya. Yes. And you've got several cutout sentences. Yes. I also have something for fast finishers, which is, again, very old. I'm not a young person anymore. Which, you want to see how old this is? You will understand how old this is when you realize that our kids don't know what this is anymore, right? Or this. Okay, but these were objects from, this was to teach, it is, I still use it, to teach objects from around the house. So I've got the words, and then I've got everything's falling around, but that's okay, all right? So yeah, I also have these for fast finishers, okay? All right, and we're at the, nope, doesn't want to work. There you go. Okay, so to finish up, I really hope that you've enjoyed the session. I really hope that you keep investing in using games in the classroom. I hope I've made you see that it doesn't take so much time to prepare. A lot of the stuff can be done by the students themselves, incorporated into and brought to the classroom, okay? So I think that if you use what is available online, yes, but again, we know that a lot of schools don't have proper internet access, even though things are slightly changing, but it's the reality. So if you can use the simpler versions of these games, but they're effective and they can be a lot of fun, and fun is memorable, and memorable is good for learning, right? We all know that. Okay, so that's it. Now, if you have any questions, I would love to answer them. I forgot to put my email in here, but my email is sandra.luna@secondlanguage.pt. If you have any questions, if you want to chat about any of these things, any ideas, please do, okay? Please send me an email. I'll reply to you as soon as I can. And that's it. All right. So I just hope, let me see if you have any questions. Thank you so much for coming, right? Thank you so much. I'm going to check all the comments that that you mentioned, because whenever I got my tablet and I saw that there were some really good ideas, some colleagues sharing really excellent ideas, okay? Well, so if you don't have any questions, thank you very much once again. I'll see you soon. We'll be having another webinar specifically for Primeiro Ciclo soon, all right? So keep your heads up, and I will thank you so much. Thank you so much, okay? Bye-bye, take care.